Welcome back. Today I want to invite you into a thoughtful exploration of a question that many people wrestle with. How does narcissism really form? What shapes someone into a person who struggles so deeply to truly see and connect with others? This topic is one that many people have asked me to talk about, and it's a big one. Layered, delicate, and sometimes uncomfortable. I've tried to make it as clear and complete as I can, but I know that no explanation can ever hold every piece of this complex human story. I always welcome your reflections, your experiences, and your feelings about it. You might wonder why I feel hesitant to talk about this. It's not that I don't want to share or that I don't believe in offering knowledge freely. It's actually because once we begin to understand the roots of narcissistic patterns, some people feel pulled to justify them. They think, if I know why they act this way, maybe I should feel sorry for them. Maybe I shouldn't step away or set boundaries. I want to say, gently understanding someone's pain does not mean you must accept their hurtful behavior. You can hold compassion for their wounds without sacrificing your own well-being. I can't sit beside you at your kitchen table and ask you to protect yourself. I can't physically guide your choices. You are your own person with your own freedom, but I invite you to remember that knowledge can help you see clearly, not excuse mistreatment. Now let's move into what shapes a narcissistic pattern. These patterns often begin very early. From the moment we arrive in this world, we start absorbing signals about safety, love, and belonging. Our minds and hearts are like fresh earth, ready to receive whatever seeds are planted by the people closest to us. Through infancy, childhood, and adolescence, our sense of self is slowly molded day by day. By our early to mid-20s, our core personality begins to settle like soft clay that finally holds its shape. There's still a bit of flexibility, but much of our emotional structure has formed. When we look closely, we see that narcissistic patterns often grow out of childhood environments marked by deep wounds, neglect, harsh criticism, emotional unpredictability. In these spaces, children learn that showing their true selves might not be safe. To survive, they might build up a thick emotional armor, presenting a confident or even arrogant exterior to the world while hiding fragile parts deep inside. Many of these behaviors resemble what we see in people who've lived through trauma. When we experience trauma, our ability to express emotions freely can shut down. We might feel constantly on guard, as if danger could come from anywhere. We might act impulsively, seeking to soothe an inner chaos that never really quiets. Secure attachment. That solid foundation we all long for is created when a child has caregivers who are consistent, loving, and present. These caregivers offer a safe harbor where mistakes are allowed, emotions are welcomed, and the child feels cherished just as they are. This kind of early safety helps build trust both in themselves and in others. But when a child grows up with unreliable or emotionally distant caregivers, that sense of safety is missing. Instead of feeling grounded, they learn to fear intimacy or see closeness as a threat. They may swing between clinging too tightly and pushing others away, never quite sure if love will stay or vanish in a moment. This unsettled foundation often echoes into adulthood. Someone might crave deep connection yet feel terrified by it at the same time. They might develop an intense need for admiration and a fear of showing vulnerability. It's as if they are always performing, hoping to protect that hidden tender core from being wounded again. I invite you to stay with me all the way to the end of this video. Let's keep holding this understanding softly as a way to see the hidden stories behind these patterns, not as a reason to tolerate harm, but as a way to make choices that truly honor your heart. If this journey resonates with you, I warmly encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what stood out or what you're still wondering about. And if you'd like to keep exploring these tender, complex parts of being human together, please consider subscribing and staying connected. Thank you for being here and for choosing to walk this path of deep self-discovery with me. Let's keep learning, growing, and supporting each other one gentle step at a time. When someone grows up, never truly feeling safe, not as a child, and not later as an adult, it shapes every layer of how they relate to others. There's this constant dance of stepping forward and pulling back like a tide that can't decide whether it wants to reach the shore or disappear again. They might come close, then retreat over and over, making it almost impossible for them to build deep, lasting intimacy. This cycle of coming close and then retreating is complicated because not every person who struggles with early emotional wounds ends up showing these patterns. Trauma and difficulties in early bonds don't always lead someone to develop narcissistic traits. And at the same time, not every child who goes through hardship will grow into an adult who carries these ways of being. Sometimes learning about someone's difficult beginnings makes it harder for us to hold boundaries. We might feel torn, caught between compassion and self-protection. We tell ourselves stories to justify staying, thinking that if we understand why they act this way, maybe we should just keep giving, keep forgiving. But understanding the roots doesn't mean we need to stay or accept harmful treatment. It simply opens a window into their pain without asking us to live inside it. Beyond the emotional history, there's also something deeply woven into us from birth temperament. You could think of temperament as the natural tone or rhythm a person is born with, the biological music playing softly in the background. Some babies arrive in the world easily soothed, adapting gently to touch and sound. Others come with a restless energy, harder to settle, more intense in their cries and their needs. As these children grow, those differences become clearer. A child with a more difficult or sensitive temperament might be met with impatience from parents, or teachers might find them challenging. Adults around them might show less warmth, less patience. Over time, this can leave a child feeling unseen and misunderstood, as if they don't fit easily into the world around them. On the other hand, children with naturally easygoing, adaptable temperaments often find life smoother. They tend to receive more approval, more affection, and parents may feel more confident in raising them. This gentle reception by the world can make their journey softer, their emotional soil more nurturing. So temperament can be a powerful thread in the story of how childhood experiences shape us differently. A child with a challenging temperament, combined with emotional neglect or harshness, might feel even more isolated when a parent feels overwhelmed by a sensitive or intense child. They may pull away emotionally or become more critical. This withdrawal adds another layer of pain, leaving the child to navigate their big feelings alone. When you mix a sensitive temperament with an invalidating environment, the ground becomes fertile for certain protective patterns to form later. But even then, not every child with these challenges will become narcissistic. The human journey is never a straight line. It is a twisting path with many forks. Another important layer in this story is how children are treated when it comes to their needs and wants. Some children grow up receiving all the material things. They ask for toys, trips, constant indulgence, but their emotional lives are left empty. It's a bit like being fed only candy. The hunger might be gone, but the body is starving for true nourishment. When a child is flooded with material gifts, yet starved of emotional support, they don't learn how to sit with their feelings or how to comfort themselves when they feel overwhelmed. They might even be shamed for showing sadness or anger, leaving them unsure of how to handle the waves inside. One of the most important skills a child needs is to learn how to steady themselves emotionally, to understand that big feelings are not something to run from or hide. Sometimes these patterns are passed down like an invisible family heirloom. A child who grows up watching a parent act entitled "lash out in anger" or look down on others may begin to see those behaviors as normal. Children learn by watching. If they see a parent shout at a coach or belittle a store clerk, that becomes part of the world they think is ordinary. Over time, these lessons can slip into the child's own ways of moving through the world, echoing the same sharp edges they once watched from the back seat of the car. In these quiet moments of observation, they might not realize they are learning a script they will one day play out themselves. They are simply absorbing, taking in what they see again and again until it becomes second nature. This is how entitlement, arrogance, and explosive reactions can quietly take root, sometimes blossoming years later in unexpected ways. Understanding these layers doesn't mean excusing the harm they might cause. Instead, it offers us a window into how tangled and complex human development really is. It reminds us that behind every harsh word or grand performance, there might be a story of a child trying to protect their tenderest parts in the only way they knew how. Some parents, especially those with more controlling or self-focused ways of relating, struggle deeply with boundaries. Instead of allowing their child to experience and express feelings in a safe space, they unintentionally pour their own needs and emotions into the child as if the child's inner world is just an extension of theirs. Imagine a young child saying, "Mom, I feel sad." In a nurturing moment, a parent might offer comfort, hold the child close, and create a space where the sadness can exist without fear. The parent would acknowledge that they can't always fix everything, but still stand beside the child's feelings. But in families where these emotional boundaries are blurred, that same moment can take a very different turn. A child shares sadness, and instead of being met with warmth, they hear, "Oh no, now you've made me sad too." In that instant, the child learns that their feelings carry a heavy price. They start to believe that expressing emotions might hurt the people they love. Over time, they begin to shut down, hide their true feelings, or even become unsure where their emotions end and others' emotions begin. Later, as adults, this confusion can show up as a constant struggle to understand how they affect the people around them. They may act without recognizing the ripple effect of their words or actions. Some lose touch with their own feelings so completely that they can't see the line between self and other at all. Some of you might recognize these patterns in your own upbringing. You might think, "That was my parent, and yet I didn't become self-centered. Instead, I spend my life trying to keep everyone else happy, making sure no one gets upset." This shows how deeply complex these emotional paths can be. There is no single formula that decides exactly how each child will carry these early messages forward. Temperament and other personal factors mix into this emotional recipe, making every journey unique. Another layer to this story is the idea of a child growing up feeling they must shape themselves to fit the parents' needs rather than discovering who they truly are. Instead of developing an authentic sense of self, they learn to become what the parent expects, losing touch with their own inner voice. This pattern can grow so strong that the child carries it into adulthood without even realizing it. Then there's the concept of love that depends on performance. Some children are taught directly or indirectly that they are worthy only when they succeed or please. They hear, "I love you when you win," or "I love you if you make me proud." They learn that love is a fragile reward handed out when they bring home a trophy or stand in the spotlight. Parents who celebrate loudly when their child wins, who glow with pride when they see medals and certificates, may think they're showing love. And of course, it's beautiful to celebrate your child's achievements. But in some homes, the warmth vanishes as soon as the child stops performing. When there's no victory, no special recognition, the parent fades into the background, leaving the child alone with the question, "Am I still loved if I don't win?" Some of you might be reflecting now and thinking, "My parents didn't even show up at all. I would have taken any form of love, even if it was conditional." This pain is real too. The ache of being overlooked entirely. The sense that you didn't matter enough to be seen at all. In families where love is tied to achievement, children learn to chase validation as if it's the only oxygen they have. They become experts at reading the room, adjusting themselves to gain approval, to avoid the cold withdrawal of a parent's disappointment. Over time, this constant reshaping chips away at any solid sense of self, leaving behind only the performance, the mask that keeps them feeling safe. When these experiences blend together, blurred emotional boundaries, conditional love, and the silent lessons of what gets rewarded, a deep, complicated pattern begins to form. The child may lose touch with their true feelings, believing that who they are is never enough unless they are constantly proving their worth. I understand how deeply painful and confusing it can feel when love from a parent isn't truly unconditional. As children, we're meant to feel that we are loved simply because we exist, not because we perform or please or succeed. But when love is given only when we meet certain expectations, a child starts to believe that their worth depends entirely on what they can achieve or provide. That's a heavy burden for a small heart to carry. And when a parent doesn't show up at all, when they don't make time for the soccer games or miss the quiet moments that matter so much, the message a child receives is even more cutting. They might believe they aren't worthy of love or attention at all, that they're not important enough to claim even a sliver of someone's time. In more recent years, we've seen another pattern emerge. Many parents, with the best of intentions, hover and shield their children from every possible hurt. These so-called bubble wrap or helicopter approaches come from a place of fear and love, a wish to keep children safe. But overprotection can silently teach a child that discomfort or failure is something to be avoided at all costs. Childhood is the natural ground for learning to handle setbacks, the small heartbreak of losing a game, the sting of a bad grade, the loneliness of not being invited to a party, the sadness of losing a pet, the disappointment of not getting a role in the school play. Each of these moments, as painful as they feel, offers a gentle practice in resilience. Yet so many parents today find it unbearable to watch their children feel disappointed. They might see their child as a reflection of themselves, and so they rush to fix, to soothe, to control the narrative. Some parents try to influence schools, persuade coaches, or demand special treatment. They replace a pet immediately, talk badly about the kid who didn't invite them, or go to any length to smooth every rough edge. It's so tempting to step in and make everything better, to erase the pain before it takes root. But in doing so, they rob the child of the opportunity to learn one of life's most vital skills: how to hold disappointment with grace, how to feel big feelings and still stay grounded. When children don't learn this early on, they grow into adults who simply can't handle not getting what they want. Their reactions to even the smallest frustrations can explode in ways that rival a toddler's meltdown. These adult tantrums can be loud, dramatic, and deeply unsettling to those around them. Many parents today are trying to heal from their own wounds to do better than the generations before them. But in trying so hard to protect children from all pain, they can create new vulnerabilities. Overprotected children might become adults who react sharply to stress and feel unsteady when life doesn't go their way. These patterns often show up in the emotional life of a person we might describe as narcissistic, someone whose inner world stopped developing in important ways. It's as if they reach a certain emotional age and get stuck there. Even at 50, they might still crave validation like a teenager or throw fits like a small child. Outwardly, they might appear grown up. They might have jobs, relationships, possessions, all the markers of adulthood. But inside, their ability to manage emotions and connect deeply can remain frozen at a much younger stage. This emotional stunting makes sense when we understand how certain childhood dynamics hold them back. Rather than moving through life's natural developmental stages, they become anchored in old, unprocessed feelings and unmet needs. And it doesn't end there. The way we raise children today often emphasizes external rewards and surface-level achievements. Expensive gadgets, endless activities, luxurious trips, all these shiny things become substitutes for emotional connection. On top of that, we live in a world drenched in social media. We see teenagers collecting massive followings and wealth for performing online dancing or curating a polished image. Children grow up seeing this and start to believe that value comes from applause and likes rather than inner steadiness or authentic connection. All these forces together, conditional love over protection, external focus, and a digital culture obsessed with performance, weave a complex web that can shape a person into someone who struggles to regulate feelings, handle setbacks, and build real intimacy. The world we live in today feels different from the one many of us remember. The pace is faster, the noise is louder, and everywhere we look, we're told to perform, to show, to prove our worth. Social media magnifies all of this, turning life into a stage where everyone is watching and judging. In this environment, the seeds of narcissism can take root more easily than ever before. When a child grows up in a space where their value is tied to external success, trophies, grades, followers' applause, they start to believe that their entire worth lives in those outward symbols. Instead of being cherished for simply existing, for their laugh or their curiosity, they become another branch of their parents' ego, a shiny reflection to be shown off to the world. The child learns early on that love and approval are not freely given, but earned through achievements. This type of conditional love plants a quiet, gnawing fear deep inside, the fear that without accomplishments, they are nothing. Insecurity takes root in that vulnerable soil, and if left unaddressed, it can keep growing long into adulthood. To cope with this shaky ground, some individuals build towering defenses, a sense of entitlement, an exaggerated sense of self, as if wearing a suit of armor to hide the fragile, terrified child underneath. Imagine a world where every child felt safe, seen, and unconditionally loved. A world where parents were consistently present, not lost in their own desires or seeking validation through their kids. In such a world, the need for these protective layers might fade away. Sadly, that vision remains far from reality. Another piece that keeps these patterns alive is enabling. Sometimes a child is not challenged or called out when they act arrogantly or lash out. As long as they are winning, getting high grades, or dazzling crowds online, their behavior is overlooked. The message they receive is loud and clear: performance matters more than character. As they move into adolescence and early adulthood, the patterns formed in childhood solidify. It's like a soft mixture turning firm in a mold. Slowly, the shape becomes fixed. Once this happens, those behaviors and beliefs become deeply ingrained ways of moving through life. We don't yet have the perfect long-term studies tracking every detail from the cradle to adulthood to tell us exactly who will develop these patterns and why. Instead, much of what we know comes from listening to stories shared later, piecing together fragments of childhood from adults who remember bits and pieces. Memory, of course, is imperfect and colored by time. Even with all these factors, childhood wounds, conditional love, unmet emotional needs, not every person ends up carrying narcissistic traits. Some may grow into adults overflowing with empathy, almost too sensitive to the pain of others. Others might struggle with anxiety, turn to substances to soothe inner turmoil, or develop rigid habits to try to control a chaotic inner world. Some may live with the echoes of trauma, but express it in completely different ways that have nothing to do with narcissism. This complicated mix reminds us that there isn't a single road leading to narcissism. Instead, it's a web of possibilities, each person moving through their own unique intersections of pain and adaptation. And here's a hard truth to sit with as an adult: you cannot rewrite the early chapters of someone else's story. You can't go back and rebuild the safety they never had. Unless a person with narcissistic patterns looks inward and truly recognizes that something feels wrong, no one else can do that work for them. Without their own willingness to look at the cracks beneath the surface, those defenses will stand tall and strong, no matter how much you care or try to help. That's the difficult puzzle so many people face when they love someone carrying these patterns. There's this beautiful but often painful idea many of us hold that maybe if we love someone enough, we can become the kind of parent they never had. We imagine we can pour warmth into the cracks, teach them how to see the goodness inside themselves, break them out of rigid, surface-level habits, and guide them toward a more peaceful way of being. We believe that if we are patient and kind enough, we can help them learn how to steady their feelings and truly connect. But the reality is this deep work needed to happen when the foundations of their mind and heart were still being built back when those invisible emotional paths were first taking shape. Many of us carry childhood wounds. They become a quiet burden we learn to hold. And while someone else can sit beside us and listen, no one else can truly lift that weight off our shoulders. Even when we seek help and talk things through, the work of healing is still ours. And when it comes to someone caught in narcissistic patterns, you can't be the hero who fixes them. The roots of these patterns are tangled and woven deeply into their being. It's natural to want to understand. There's a certain power and comfort in making sense of what feels chaotic or cruel. And yes, understanding can give birth to empathy and compassion, two of the most important human qualities we can nurture. But there's a fine line. When understanding turns into permission to stay in harm's way, to keep enduring pain because they had it rough, that's where we can lose ourselves. Recognizing someone's story doesn't mean sacrificing your own safety or well-being. This is a complex landscape. Exploring it has led me to wonder about even more layers within narcissism, whether there might be additional types shaped by different childhood experiences. Perhaps one day we can look closer at those subtleties, create space to see the full picture more clearly. I want to gently remind you that all the childhood experiences we've talked about, neglect, chaotic attachments, parents who made you carry their emotional burdens, those moments when your feelings were dismissed or boundaries ignored, these can shape people in so many different ways. Some might be listening now thinking, I went through that too, but I'm not like that. You're right. Many who endured similar wounds grew into adults who feel anxious, who struggle with worthiness, who become deeply sensitive and self-doubting. It's often the same early pain, but it blossoms in different ways, depending on many factors: temperament, family roles, or the ways we learn to adapt. Temperament can add another twist. One child might be labeled the golden child, propped up and idealized, and that might make them more likely to carry narcissistic traits later. Another child in the same family, treated as the scapegoat, might develop anxiety, a constant sense of not being enough, or an aching vulnerability. Even within one family, siblings can come out so different, like two trees growing in the same soil but shaped by different winds. None of this is a perfect equation. Human psychology is a dance between biology and lived experience, a space that feels part science, part mystery. And that mystery can feel hard to fully grasp. It's not uncommon to look around at your family and wonder how you and your brother or sister ended up on such different paths despite sharing the same roof, the same meals, the same parents. The answer often lies in the roles each of you were given or chose, the small moments that added up over years, and the quiet ways you learned to protect yourselves. These complexities can bring up questions, and it's completely natural if your mind is buzzing with them right now. It's okay to sit with them, to let them unfold slowly. There's no rush to make sense of it all at once. Thank you for walking through these layers with me today. I know it isn't easy to look back at old wounds or to consider how childhood echoes into our adult lives. But in taking this time together, you've shown a gentle courage, the kind that invites real growth, not through force, but through quiet understanding. If today's reflection stirred something in you, I encourage you to hold it softly. Let it breathe. There's no rush to solve or fix. Instead, simply notice what comes up and be kind to yourself as you do. If you'd like to keep exploring these hidden corners of our inner worlds together, I warmly invite you to stay connected here. Share your thoughts, your questions, or even just a word about what touched you most. Until we meet again, may you continue to discover the strength and softness within you, one gentle step at a time.